You're watching the FARC Elite Series, powered by Smash Beer on OEN. Brought to you this week by Smash Beer, the only beer with a better taste, coming back up. And remember, the only way to defeat a hangover is to get drunk again. It's finally time to settle the 2014 FARC Elite Series, powered by Smash Beer Championship. And after the two sprint races, the cards are definitely stacked in Ryan Matthews' favor. Matthews finished second in his sprint with a bent-up front end, no less, while Jim Hayes crashed out from the lead. Hayes had to go to the back for tonight's race after going to a backup car. Jim Hayes and Libby Bell are the only people who can catch Ryan Matthews, but they have a lot of work to do and a lot of praying to do as well. But no matter what, we would end up with a first-time champion. And now we bring you the highlights of race number 50, the 500-mile FARC Lone Star Championships at the Texas Motor Speedway. And sitting on the Marlisle pole, continuing his excellent weekend so far, Sprint 1 winner Reed Bullitt for Sergio Power Incorporated. And that is Frank Azure trying to lock up Rookie of the Year tonight on the outside of the front row, but Reed Bullitt gets a good jump heading into turn 1 and is out front all by himself, as Azure settles into second place, facing some pressure from Kelly Splicen in the 96. But it didn't take long for the action to be interrupted. Brian George in the 81 comes down on Robert Nelson. That takes Carter Fitzgerald and Joel Rodriguez into the wall. Brian George goes upside down, and George Bryan will slide all the way down onto the apron on his roof. The first Vickers collision glass caution comes out on lap number 3. Carter Fitzgerald and Joel Rodriguez would be taken out of the race. However, Brian George got going again after they flipped that 01 car over. Meanwhile, Andre Kinasa and Naoi Mizushima get together for some reason under caution, but it wouldn't matter too much for Mizushima because she blew up one lap before the restart. Mike Malone in the 5K took the lead after a round of pit stops under that caution. He finished fourth in the DMR West Series Championship earlier this weekend. But now Libby Bell's hopes for the championship are done on lap 8. Kate Taylor and Dan Ledlighter then go out of the race the lap after that. And now Jack Dempsey, the Sprint 2 winner, comes into the pits with a cut tire on lap 11. Several mechanical failures happening at once in the early stages. But in the meantime, Kevin Monroe, who fell out of championship contention after the sprints, moves up into the lead. Jim Hayes is already up to 22nd place, as you saw his teammate Frank Azure into the pit lane with a cut tire. Jim Hayes is wasting no time in trying to salvage his championship hopes, but Frank Azure, on the other hand, is definitely in trouble as he pits and loses a lap. Harry Asinola also cut down a tire and had to pit that 45 Peter Irving Gray car. There's probably debris all over the track from all those blown engines earlier. George Bryan in the 01, after flipping that car over, is well off the pace. All of the leaders except Trey Ashby have no problem getting around the 81. And we've now got a battle between Jim Hayes and Ryan Matthews. There wasn't much that Matthews could do, pinned up on the high side, as Jim Hayes goes by to take about the 12th position, but here comes Matthews and Trey Ashby 3 wide for that position. Jim Hayes has now worked his way up into the top 10, and now there's smoke coming from the back of the 77. Jim Hayes goes out of the race and out of contention for the title, only 35 laps in. And that caps off an abysmal last couple of weeks for Jim Hayes and Tom Delgado Racing. They failed to make the feature at Salem, and that put him 19 points behind Ryan Matthews coming into this race. But then their bad luck and bad decisions continued this weekend. And Ryan Matthews, still running, is effectively your champion. So congratulations to Ryan Matthews, who has served as the model of consistency all season. He's made more races than anybody else. I know that most of you watching at home would have liked to see it come down to the wire, but that's just how these things work sometimes. In the meantime, we still have a race to settle. Lucas Sweeney took over the lead, but his teammate Jason Bates runs into an engine failure on lap 37. A dismal end to what was otherwise a very good season for Jason Bates in his first year in that famous Andy Pearson number 2. He grabbed a win at Talladega and got himself very close to championship contention. Robert Leckliter in the second Leckliter car goes out of the race on lap 44. Robert Leckliter competes in the Modified Series, but he's been trying to make these Texas Triple Crown races as well. Also on lap 44, several of the leaders follow Kevin Monroe into the pits. Lap 45, Lucas Sweeney and Ryan Matthews now make their pit stops. Packer Carroll in the 70 decided to hold off on making his stop for quite some time, and now he has cycled through into the lead. Gabriel Messina on the same strategy is running second, trying to chase down Packer Carroll. And in third place is Harry Esanola, who is now off cycle thanks to his cut tire earlier. But Mike Malone in the 5K gained the most time amongst the people who pitted, and with fresher tires than those who didn't, he now takes over the lead on lap 60. But we got another Vickers collision and glass caution as Robert Nelson blows up and then gets hit by Lev Azarov in the 82. And that's the end of the season for the student-operated McSwain Tech team. Most of the leaders came back into the pit lane under this caution, but the Frank Asher team discovered a terminal problem with the 87, and they pulled that car behind the wall. And that would be the end of the night for Tom Delgado Racing. Packer Carroll led on the restart, but he gets swarmed by everybody else. I believe that's Kelly Splicin going for the lead. And look at that, the 81 of George Bryan. After flipping that car over, the Doppelgang team has been making repairs to that car, and now they've found a ton of speed. That reminds me of the truck race in Albuquerque where Billy Ray Smith-Thompson won after flipping his truck over. Get well soon, Billy Ray. Rip Tyler, the 2012 Series champion, now cycles through to the lead, and I briefly lost track of Kelly Splicin. She is not on the lead lap, but Rip Tyler would be challenged by Ryan Matthews, who has come to life after stagnating at the beginning of the race. But we got another Vickers collision and glass coming to the end of lap 79. Andrea Kinasi goes for a wild ride down the front stretch after running into the back of the slow car of Julia Ashcroft. And now that 78 car is destroyed after being very fast in the sprints. A disappointing end to the year for Andrea Kinasa and Ken Groves Racing, but Kinasa would climb out of that car as George Bryan has a problem after leading on the restart in that car that was upside down on lap 3. Complications from that accident, I'm sure. He would limp that car to pit road, and amazingly, they'd get that car back out there again. The persistence of the Doppelgang crew is definitely to be admired. In the meantime, this is going to hand the lead over to John Hawks, Ralph West in second, Ryan Matthews third. Ralph West, the FARC Sport Modified champion for this season, is in the third Pearson Sweeney car. The son of James West is going to pursue another modified title next year while getting a few more races in the Elite Series. Mauro Adachi with the Troll and Lowly team finally made a race this weekend, and now he's showing off what he's got by charging into third place on lap 96. Be sure to catch Troll and Lowly straight from Japan, uncut and uncensored, every Saturday morning on OEN. But that's enough self-promotion from now. Packer Carroll gets turned into the wall after contact between Jeremy Baker and Rip Tyler, bringing out another Vickers collision and glass caution on lap 99. Packer Carroll would keep going after taking that hard hit into the wall, but it goes without saying that he's going to have some problems. After the restart, Bigsby Foote is the race leader. Foote is the only driver at Sergio Power Incorporated who hasn't won a race this season, and that's very surprising because he's been up at the front on a regular basis. Lucas Sweeney is lagging behind in the 8. He's got damage from some pit road contact, and that's going to make these remaining 210 laps much less fun. Rip Tyler becomes the second Sergio Power casualty of the night. He brings that 24 car to a stop and brings out the 5th Vickers collision and glass caution of the night. But as the field races back to the caution, Reed Bullitt and Kevin Monroe get together. Neil Miller in the 90S takes a pretty big hit as AJ Young gets caught up with the 63. And that's going to be the end of the race for Monroe. Ralph West leads on the restart. Neil Miller drops out with complications from that wreck as his Wesley Family Racing teammate Aaron Singer gets caught up in some contact with Packer Carroll. Mike Malone in the 5K. Nowhere to go but into the side of the 70. Packer Carroll had made his way up to 7th even with that damage, but now that's the end of his race. Ralph West's night comes to an end with a transmission problem under this caution. That's a shame for West and Pearson Sweeney Motorsports. And here we see Bigsby Foote's brakes going out under caution. He almost wrecked the 8 of Lucas Sweeney. Foote spent several laps in the pits getting that sorted out. Jeremy Baker, after crashing out of the truck race on lap 9 last night and losing the championship to Mike Howard, now leads the race, trying to end his weekend on a high note. M&J's night comes to an end as AJ Young blows up on lap 152. Jeremy Baker dropped back, allowing John Hawks and Ryan Matthews to fight for the lead now. but Hawks would be caught and shuffled out of line by the lapped cars of Kelly Splicen and Harry Asinola, who are still competitive and trying to make their way back onto the lead lap by catching a quick caution. Ryan Matthews takes advantage, using Harry Asinola as a pick to get by the 114 who is pinned on the outside, but Hawks now finds an opening and gets by the 61 once again. Trey Ashby is having a very good night so far in what is looking to be his last FARC race for the foreseeable future. Apparently Spin Doctor, his sponsor, has not been very good about getting those checks to Hotshot Racing towards the end of this season. You may have seen those yellow lights flashing. Here's why. Todd Stater blows up on lap 172, the green racing car spewing smoke all over the place. John Hawks takes over the lead after a round of pit stops, but here comes Makoto Yamada making a 3 wide with Hawks and Mauro Adachi to take the lead. Yamada, like Trey Ashby, is potentially fighting for his life tonight. The two-time race winner in 2014 is not confirmed to be returning to Big Mac Racing or any other team next year, and it would be a shame to see Yamada, who's finally gotten a rhythm going in FARC, shoved out for someone else's cash. John Hawks and Ryan Matthews are starting to break away from everyone else, in part thanks to the drafting help that they're getting from those lapped cars of Bixby Foot and Jack Dempsey, but the 01 of Brian George is going to get in the way and allow the rest of the leaders to catch up. I'm very surprised that the Doppelgang have made it to lap 200 with all the problems that they've had, including going upside down, but their perseverance has paid dividends as they are now in 15th, as they see Ryan Matthews peeling off to make a green flag pit stop, and here come all of the lapped cars, well off cycle of the leaders. Enola pits at the end of lap 217. He had cycled through to second, but now he's going to fall back again. John Hawks is back in the lead, and as you see him go by, you're going to see just how big of a lead he has. There's the battle for second with Trey Ashby and Ryan Matthews. Harry Asinola is still mixing it up with the leaders as we enter the last third of this race, and because he pitted later than everyone else, he's going to be on fresher tires, and he has no trouble catching up to the 114. Enola gets by Hawks to try to make up some more ground, and Hawks would soon be caught by the rest of the leaders, led by Trey Ashby. Ryan Matthews slows down. He's coming in for another stop at the end of lap 245. Hawks and Trey Ashby follow suit. Their strategies are a little more spread out this time around. Jeremy Baker holds out to lap 250. Lap 255, Harry Asinola has cycled through to the lead, and here he comes into the pit lane, and he would be right up there with the leaders once he comes out. John Hawks didn't get nearly as big of an advantage as he did with the last pit cycle, and there goes Ryan Matthews with a bit of drafting help from the 45 to take over the lead. And as Enola gets away from the field, Jeremy Baker falls behind as he gets stuck behind the lapped car of Reed Bullitt. Coming to the end of lap 280, Ryan Matthews gives up the lead to come to pit road once again. Everybody is going to have to make one more stop after this. John Hawks follows suit at the end of lap 281. Harry Asinola holds out until the end of lap 290, and John Hawks once again has a sizable lead. The MT Motorsports crew is really on it tonight. They're trying to finally wrap up that first FARC win, but if you look ahead of the 114, you see that Enola has come out ahead of the leader. So Enola has definitely been making up a lot of ground during these last few cycles. Ryan Matthews follows John Hawks in a very distant second place. With all of his rivals having dropped out of the race long ago, he hasn't got anything to lose, and so he's giving it all to try to win this race. The first position battle in the running order is for third. Trey Ashby has it. Jeremy Baker wants it after being held up by the 11. And here's the battle for fifth between Harry Enola and Makoto Yamada. Enola grabs the spot with relative ease and finally puts himself into the top 5. We're not sure what Harry Asinola is going to be doing next year. The former Marine drill sergeant has been in the series for quite some time, and he's become very well known for his ability to pick up the pieces when others stumble. Jeremy Baker kicks off what would be the final pit cycle at the end of lap 310. John Hawks comes in a couple laps later. Baker was usually one of the later takers on pit road, but not so this time around, as you see Ryan Matthews following the 114 in. And once again, Harry Enola stays out to try to make up more time. He comes in at the end of lap 316. And when everything cycles out, John Halks once again has a very big lead, and he would look to be very difficult to catch without a caution, as he pitted at the same time as Ryan Matthews and has fresher tires than Jeremy Baker. But Jeremy Baker did come out in second place ahead of Ryan Matthews, as he goes by the 81 of George Bryan once again. But Matthews would slowly start to chase down the 36, and that blue car is Harry Enola in fourth place, solidly on the lead lap now. So his pit strategy has really paid off for him, as you see Ryan Matthews going by Baker for second place. And here comes the 11 to hold up the 36. Once again, Baker must be very sick of seeing the back end of Reed Bullett's car. And here comes Harry Enola for third place. Baker finally sees an opening to get by the 11, but Enola is right there, and he has the fresher tires. Baker lets him go without putting up too much of a fight, and here comes Enola for second place. Ryan Matthews doesn't stand much of a chance either. Enola is the fastest car on the track right now. What a comeback by the 45 from a lap down to second place in the closing laps of this race. But after 3 hours and 500 miles of racing under the lights of Texas, nobody could catch John Halks, and he cruises to his maiden FARC Elite Series victory in the final race of 2014. What a dominant run by John Halks in the second half of this race, and his pit crew was definitely the one to beat all night. And with his third place finish, Ryan Matthews is officially your 2014 FARC Elite Series powered by Smash Beer champion. Once again, congratulations to Ryan Matthews and the whole Matthews Motorsports bunch. They were only able to bring one car to most of these races, and they only finally got to victory lane this year, but more important than winning those races was outlasting everyone else. Matthews leads the series in top 10 finishes this season with 16, and he qualified for more features than anyone else. Ryan Matthews had 31 starts throughout the year, Libby Bell had 29, and Jim Hayes had 28. Kevin Monroe and Jason Bates fell out of championship contention after the sprints, and fell out of the main race as well, but they defended their spots in the standings. Monroe leads the series in pole positions with 11. Harry Enola made up a staggering amount of ground to finish second, and he secures 6th place in the standings for himself. Again, I am not sure whether or not he will stick around. Todd Stater comes home 7th in the standings with 1 win at Talladega. I believe he will be back with Green Racing next year. The Rus Autosport duo of Lev Azarov and Radomir Stanichev combined their powers to finish 8th in the standings, despite 15 DNFs, more than any other team running the full schedule. And then rounding out the top 10 would be the remaining 2 full-time Sergio Power cars, Rip Tyler and Bigsby Foote. Foote and Harry Enola were the only drivers to have not won a race this season. Jim Hayes and the 77 team had a soul-crushing ending to their season, to put it lightly, but Tom Delgado Racing did not leave Texas Motor Speedway empty-handed, as 53-year-old Frank Azure gave the team their 2nd consecutive Rookie of the Year title. Azure's average finish was almost 1 position better than Vincenzo Focusato and Reed Bullett's. 5 of the top 10 rookies this year won races: Reed Bullett, Laura Ocean, Robert Nelson, Kate Taylor, and Tammy Barnton. Barnton won both the Rookie Shootout and the Smash Beer 500. However, she never really had the opportunity to repeat too much of that success for the rest of the year. From the Faulkner Auto Racing Championships and the Oliver Ensinger Network, I personally thank you for your continued support throughout this exciting racing season, and we will see you next year when we do it all again.